Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another Expedition Log. Today, we're going back down south for the third to last episode of the 2018 NC Chesapeake Dead Mall Tour. We'll be visiting a mall that was the brainchild of three incredible real estate developers: the DeBartolo Corp., JCPenney Realty, and Crown American. It was a formidable triumvirate of retail prowess, and I'd like you to come take a walk with me through their Chesapeake Square Mall. But first, a word and a song from our sponsor. This silky, deep voice of a man who went on to sing the barbecue sauce line in Chili's original baby back ribs commercial. So for your consideration, I give you William Wolf Johnson and his path to barbecue sauce. Enjoy.
But goodies, if you love the Temptations, the Four Tops, these are the guys to have at your next birthday bash, your next party, any occasion. And again, Mr. Johnson, Wolf Johnson.
Right.
You normally call Wolf or Mr.?
Yeah, everybody all over the world calls me Wolf.
And we see why, right? Because this guy has a incredible voice. And we're going to get ready and just, sit back and enjoy pure elegance in just a few minutes, right here on Notes.
I've got sunshine.
Won't lie.
Bill has been able to build
In Georgia, a rainy night in Georgia, feels like all over the world. Albuquerque, New Mexico, all over the world. Never be lonely if you feel it was raining all over this man's world. You talk about a raining, rain.
I want my baby back. Chili, baby back rib. I want my baby. Chili, baby back rib. I got my baby back ribs.
The plan calls for a mall of about 130 stores to go up at the northwest corner of Portsmouth Boulevard and Taylor Road. It would be anchored by 5 major department stores with a variety of other shops and movie theaters. The idea had originally gotten approval from City Council in 1979 and now will become a reality. A spokesman for the developer, the DeBartolo Company of Youngstown, says the area was chosen because it's growing and he expects to draw customers from a wide area.
I live in Churchland area, and I would enjoy having a shopping center there because it would be closer to my home.
It just depends on the location and type of atmosphere they have there, and the stores and general attitude of the people.
Wrestling 13 News, Chesapeake.
In 1979, plans for a new shopping mall in the Bowers Hill section on the Suffolk-Chesapeake line in Virginia were starting to develop. The proposed $70 million mall was initially being developed by the DeBartolo Corp. However, in mid-1987, 2 more malls were proposed nearby by 2 aggressive developers at the helm. Goodman Seeger Hogan Incorporated was looking to build a regional shopping center and a mini-city in Harbor View, and Harvey Lindsay Commercial Real Estate of Norfolk, who wanted to build a 1 million square foot mall nearby. But the DeBartolo Corp formed a joint partnership with 2 other massive real estate firms. DeBartolo would have a 50% stake in the mall. Crown American, who was the parent company to the Hess department store chain, would have a 25% ownership, and JCPenney Realty of New York, who was the real estate development arm for JCPenney, would also have a 25% stake. So they formed this powerful partnership, won the bid, and began construction on the mall in late 1987. On August 30th, 1989, as the mall was just being completed, the Hess's department store had its grand opening ahead of the mall's launch. Then, just shy of 2 months later, nearly 4,000 people gathered together on a chilly fall day to celebrate the Phase 1 grand opening and dedication of the Chesapeake Square Mall on October 11th, 1989. The mall was slated to have 5 senior anchors in total, but on opening day, only the Sears and Hesses would accompany the mall. The Phase 2 dedication for the mall would bring 2 more senior anchors, JCPenney and Leggett, which opened in the spring of 1989, with the Montgomery Ward opening as the 5th senior anchor shortly thereafter. It was also at this time that the Hecht's company announced an aggressive southern expansion, but it would be a few years before the mall got their 6th senior anchor. 2 massive real estate companies, DeBartolo and Simon, were both about to go public in 1993 as real estate investment trusts. But according to their investors, capital markets couldn't handle both of them going public, and they couldn't absorb that much equity, and prices would plummet everywhere. So DeBartolo backed off, and Simon went public. Later in 1993, the Hess department store chain decided to pull out of the Hampton Roads area and sell 5 of their 9 stores to Tennessee-based Profits, of which the Chesapeake Square Mall was one. Profits spent $15 million for both the purchase and renovation for the 5 stores in the Hampton Roads area. And then in 1994, the DeBartolo Realty Corp finally had its initial public offering when Eddie DeBartolo Jr. took the company public. By this time, the mall was nearly 100% occupied and fortified with 5 senior anchors, JCPenney, Sears, Leggett, Profits, and a brand new Montgomery Ward. Also accompanying the mall and its anchors was an outparcel Cinemark Movies 10 adorned with a lush red interior and all the popcorn you could want. The mall was pulling in tons of traffic and doing incredibly, as was the DeBartolo company. Two years after their initial public offering, in 1996, the DeBartolo Realty Company was acquired by Melvin and Herbert Simon, bringing Simon to the front lines as the largest mall owner in the world, of which Chesapeake Square Mall was now their property. During 1996, the mall saw 2 anchors change hands. The Leggett was converted to a Belk, which is a fascinating story in itself. William Henry Belk opened the first Belk in 1888 in North Carolina, and by the 1920s, the Leggett brothers in Boston began aggressively expanding the Belk chain. And by 1927, the Leggett brothers split from the Belk brand and converted their newly bought-out stores to Leggett. And it wasn't until 1996, 69 years after that split, that the 2 families would merge again, when Belk formally bought out the Leggett chain, turning the Chesapeake Square Mall into a Belk. Dillard's decided to get busy in 1997, and they bought the Chesapeake Square Profits store, and they moved in. And just 1 year later in 1998, Dillard's then took over Belk, and then they had 2 locations at Chesapeake Square Mall, splitting the former Hess's turned Profit space into women's only merchandise, and the Leggett turned Belk space into men's and children's merchandise. And a year later, the mall was renovated in 1999, and the Hecht's was added as the 6th senior anchor. And as always, if you're from this area and you visited the mall before and after the renovation, please let me know down in the comments what the notable changes were after the renovation. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for all the notifications so you don't miss any uploads on my channel. It also helps to follow me on social media. All those links are down in the description below. In 2001, the Montgomery Ward space was converted into a Target, which was a huge traffic draw for the mall, and it served the space well into the early aughts. Then in 2004, Simon took out a $73 million loan through JP Morgan, and they secured that loan by using Chesapeake Square Mall as collateral. The loan had less than 2% interest and a maturity date of 2014, and they used this to pump some capital back into the company. This was happening all over the place with real estate companies back in the mid-aughts, and banks were handing out these real estate loans like candy. But eventually, after their short terms came to fruition, the massive balloon payments would rear their heads. I'll get back to that point a little later. That tree will most certainly outlive this mall. I love seeing tall trees reaching for sunlight inside malls. During the mid-aughts, Macy's was in the process of acquiring Hecht's, and in 2005, the Chesapeake Square Hecht's closed temporarily and was converted into a Macy's. And again, as a new anchor comes in, especially one with the retail fortitude such as Macy's, this brought a lot of new traffic to the mall, but ultimately it wouldn't be enough. In October of 2009, Dillard's shuttered both of their locations at the mall, leaving 2 massive vacancies. And then in 2010, Burlington Coat Factory opened in the Crown American designed former Hess's turned Profits turned Dillard's location. It was also around this time that the Cinemark Movies 10, the outparcel cinema, shuttered, as it was suffering from tons of roof leaks and general disrepair. It was pretty disgusting according to local reports. But just 1 year later in 2011, Simon spent $750,000 to convert the former Leggett turned Belk turned Mini Dillard's into a brand new cinema with stadium seating, which would be an enormous traffic generator for the mall, but it would cast a shadow on the old Cinemark 10, which would sit abandoned and decaying for years. Simon spun off a new holding company called Washington Prime in May of 2014, who assumed ownership of the Chesapeake Square Mall. Then in September, Washington Prime paid $2.06 billion to purchase Glimcher Realty Trust, and this new entity was called W.P. Glimcher, who is the new owner of the Chesapeake Square Mall. On October 30th, 2015, a letter was sent to W.P. Glimcher, formerly Simon, as they defaulted on their $73 million loan, of which the balance, the balloon payment, was due of $62.5 million. 'Twas the maturity date. This is exactly what many other real estate companies were facing on similar short-term, low-interest loans from giant banks. They were losing money left and right because of less foot traffic due to larger, more opulent, competing malls. And now they had the convenience of the internet with Amazon.com and eBay and the lexicon of online stores everywhere, where they could either window shop and then go to the bigger malls to pick up the item that they wanted to buy. But they would always realize that the older mall was losing out to the bigger malls. Over-malling and competition of malls was causing the downfall of these malls, was causing less foot traffic to malls, and therefore less money was being paid towards the owners, and they weren't able to pay their rent. So they just stopped paying the principal on the mortgage, and they only paid the interest to keep the mortgages from going under. It's another reason why we saw so many of these giant loans getting taken out at low interest rates over short periods of time, so that these companies could inject some capital back in because they weren't making money. It was a vicious, vicious cycle. There's nothing quite like a mixture of skylights and clerestory windows to brighten up a mall. The internet didn't cause this, but rather the internet took advantage of the fact that these malls were dying because they had these crazy loans coming up at maturity. So the internet expanded their presence and took advantage of the fact that malls were dying. The internet didn't cause malls to die. Malls dying caused the internet to expand. Then all of a sudden the maturity date comes, the balloon payments are due, the balance can't be paid, so the bank forecloses on the property to get what's owed to them. This vicious cycle is the biggest proponent of the failure of malls across the country. So Chesapeake Square Mall was put into receivership with special servicer CW Capital Asset Management, sent in to take note of the owner's record of late payments. The mall was foreclosed on April 21st, 2016 and auctioned just 1 week later. The winning bid came in from the original lender, JP Morgan, who paid $50 million for the property. Jones Lang LaSalle was hired to lease and manage the property during the bank's ownership cycle. And it was during this time that they decided to finally tear down the old, long-abandoned Cinemark Movies 10 building, which sat for many years as an outparcel to the mall. In February of 2018, the bank placed the mall on the auction block, and the winning bid came in from Virginia Beach-based Cotarides Holdings, who purchased the mall for $12.9 million. And at the time, the mall had an assessed value of $49 million, so the owners were pretty happy with the price they paid for the mall. They assessed the business for a year, and they heard all of the locals and what they wanted from the property. And in May of 2019, Pete Alex Cotarides held a sort of impromptu town hall in the food court of the Chesapeake Square Mall, where he announced the plans that the Cotarides family had for the future of the mall property. They want to convert the mall into something with more entertainment options and more restaurant options, and something that the public might not even recognize. There'll be a brewery, of which they already have a Virginia-based brewer lined up. There'll be condos and a 1 million square foot warehouse. And their end goal is to bring more jobs into this area, which is actually pretty awesome and would create a lot more revenue and tax revenue for the state. But they're currently fighting the misconception that the mall is closing, of which it's not. But time will tell. We'll see what happens with this place. As always, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'd like to send a special shout out to all my patrons who directly help contribute to the expeditions, and to all of my subscribers who engage with the channel, who like and share the videos out, and to the entire legion of explorers out there who are going on these walks with me. Stay tuned on my social media for another episode coming out very soon. Take care, everybody, and have a fantastic day.